And you said should something else come up, you'll make sure that you don't let it come into your process. Should be chosen as a juror, and also you would not allow other jurors to do it, correct?
Correct.
Then I have no further questions. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Remain seated for a moment, and counsel, when you're ready, please approach the bench.
E54.
Okay, please be seated. Good afternoon. From here on out, you're going to be referred to as juror E54. And right now, we're going to have the attorneys ask you some questions regarding the juror questionnaire that you filled out Monday morning. Mr. De La Ronda will begin.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. I'm going to refer to you as E54, sir. We've had an opportunity to look at your questionnaire that you filled out, and so I'm going to be asking you some questions as a result of that in terms of publicity you were exposed to and your opinions about that. I believe you stated that you wrote down maybe 6 or 7 lines about the facts you remember, and you wrote that, I believe, yesterday morning. Is that correct?
Yes.
You've had a little bit more time maybe to think about it. I know you've followed the judge's admonitions not to talk to anybody about the case, but what I want to know is there anything else that comes to mind other than what you've written down here now about that you've had some time to think about it?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what else you remember about the case?
Well, as I was thinking back, I know that there was, I know that there was Mr. Zimmerman made a phone call when he first noticed Trayvon Martin. To, I believe, I don't know if it was just the police, I think, just a non-emergency police number, I think it was.
Okay.
Was talking to the dispatcher there about a suspicious, what he thought was a suspicious character, suspicious individual. And there was some conversation, I don't remember the whole conversation that took place with that.
Anything else that you can remember?
Well, then I believe that there was also a 911 call that closer near the end of the incident that took place. And again, I don't know all the particulars.
Sure.
About that.
Anything else you can remember?
That's pretty much all right now.
And so I think about, if I'm reading your writing correctly, I take my glasses off to read it. George Zimmerman shot Trayvon Martin in Sanford over a year ago. Trayvon Martin died at the scene or at the site. And then you've got here, Mr. Zimmerman originally was not charged for any crime by the Sanford Police Department, but after public protests and an investigation by the state attorney's office was later charged with second-degree murder.
That's right.
Okay, is that
That's
accurate? Did I get that right?
Yeah, you read it right, yeah.
Okay, and then you also stated, I'm sorry, the state attorney's office was later charged with second-degree. That there were protests, or and you almost, I believe, used the word like join, not like you're physically joining.
Right.
In mind, were you joining like you couldn't understand?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out from you, sir.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, in my mind, I was trying to understand. I mean, when the police did their investigation, I assumed that was it. Okay, and that would have been enough. But when the protesters protested and they got people's attention to look into it and investigate, and I was, confused about why that was going on. Why was the state attorneys investigating it? But evidently, whatever they turned up, which I don't know what it was, but whatever they turned up, made them believe that there should have been an arrest, and they made the arrest. So.
Yes, sir. From the aspect of focusing your attention because of the protest, did you come to the conclusion or opinion that that was a bad thing, or that was a good thing, or no opinion whatsoever?
Well, no. So I say that it turned out to be a good thing, I guess, because I mean, we're doing a better, getting deeper involved in what happened and trying to learn the truth. Evidently, there's some discrepancy about what took place.
Okay. So you did not automatically think that that was a bad thing, that there were protesters out there wanting, at least for something to happen, investigation, a complete investigation to occur?
I don't think it's a bad thing, no.
Okay. What did you understand, what I'm trying to find out, and artfully asking you, what did you understand the protests were about? That they wanted like an investigation to be done, or they wanted him arrested, or what did you understand the protests were about, if you can remember?
Well, I think they were questioning why there wasn't an arrest, and I think they wanted to see an arrest made in this case, and at least to get to have an opportunity for justice and
yes,
further go into play here.
So you started focusing on it when the protests. And in terms of the protests, did you feel the protest, based on what you remember, was it local people, national people, or a combination, or?
Well, I believe it started off as local people, but then some national people got involved, and some pretty big names got involved.
Yes, sir. And do you recall any of the big names?
Oh, well, Reverend Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, too, Kareem Brown.
What did you think of that, in terms of somebody from out of town coming in and being involved in the protest? Did you form an opinion as a result, like they shouldn't have come, or they should, or no opinion whatsoever?
Well, no, I have no opinion. I mean, I feel like that was their choice to do with what they felt they needed to do to help out. And I don't know if they were asked to come. I don't, if they came voluntarily, I don't know.
Okay. And as a result of that, did you pay closer attention to the case after that?
No.
Okay. So did you kind of drop off after that, after he was arrested?
Yes.
Okay. Did you pay attention to any national aspects as a result of the case?
No.
Okay. Not at all whatsoever?
No.
Okay. And after he was arrested, were you aware that there were court proceedings in the case?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't remember what all they were.
Sure. Did you pay attention to any of that
No.
at all? Any hearings, what they were about, or who testified and who didn't?
No.
Okay. Do you watch any national news at all?
Yeah, I watch. Yes, I do. Yes.
What,
ABC usually. I do.
okay, and that's what I was going to ask you next. What particular station? You know, some people favor Fox, CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS. I think I've got everyone covered.
Yeah, yeah. ABC.
ABC is more yours?
Yes.
Okay. Not Fox or CNN?
No.
Or, okay. And do you remember any aspect of the case from ABC?
Yeah, there might have been some on. I don't remember any of it, but they might have picked up a couple stories
Sure.
here and there. But
Okay.
I don't remember.
All right. Now, we're coming now, hopefully, closer to the time we're today, specifically when you got the summons, which is about 3, 4, 5 weeks ago.
Yes.
Okay. Did that kind of get you thinking more about this particular case?
Sure.
Okay. Tell me, if you could, did you do any research as a result of that in terms of like what's going on in the Zimmerman case now, or did you pay more attention to the court proceedings, or?
No, I try to think back about what had taken place, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't know what, I mean, I knew that, I think the research I did do was to find out when the trial was starting.
Sure.
It was going to be on the day that I was starting to report.
Okay. So you didn't know for sure whether you were going to be a potential juror in the Zimmerman case, but you knew it was around the time that
Yeah, so
you got the summons, so you kind of put 2 and 2 together?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I looked up to see when it was going to start.
All right. Other than looking up in your research when the trial will start, and you came to the conclusion that you potentially were a juror in this particular case, did you do any further research on that?
No.
Okay. And the research you did, was that online, I'm assuming, or did you go back and, I'm assuming you hadn't recorded any
I think I went online.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a Google search.
Yes, sir. And that was the other aspect. Do you on a routine basis, use Google and like
Yes.
everybody else?
Sure.
Okay. Do you have any like Facebook or other type of social media, Twitter?
Just Facebook.
Okay. In Facebook, did you come across this story at all in terms of what had happened here in Sanford?
On Facebook?
Yes,
No.
sir. Okay. Did you communicate with anybody about the case on Facebook or Twitter
No.
or whatever other things
No,
you use?
no.
Okay. Have you had any discussions at work about the case?
No.
Even back in February when it happened, or even about the protests?
No. No. I work in another county, and I figured the people there wouldn't. I don't talk about my personal life anyway when I go to work. So.
All right. So you didn't talk about this at all
No.
with anybody? How about with family? Did you have any discussions with family about the case?
We might have talked about it back at that time when I was interested.
I apologize for getting personal, you don't have to tell us who, but obviously don't mention any names of
Sure.
your children or wife or anything. But did you have a conversation with your spouse or kids or anything about the case?
Yeah, both.
Okay, all right. And let's take the spouse first. What do you recall talking about the case, about any aspect of the case?
I really can't recall. I would assume that it was the things that I was interested in back at that time. That we were just talking about that. You know, we might have talked about why things were happening the way they were.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my question is, back in February when it happened, did you say, how did you refer to what had happened to Trayvon Martin? Did you refer to him as a kid, or do you remember, or did you have any questions with talking with your wife why it happened or didn't happen?
Well, I referred to him as a teenager. I have a teenage stepson. So.
You do,
Yes.
about the same age,
About the
as
same
far as
age.
you can know. So did that kind of, in your mind, kind of focus on that?
Yeah. a little bit.
Okay, all right. How about from the aspect of Mr. Zimmerman? Was there any discussions about Mr. Zimmerman or about the fact that, he shot the teenager? Any aspects about that? And what I'm trying to get is what kind of discussions you have. I have discussions with my wife and kind of talk about the case or about things. Did you talk with your wife about the case?
Again, I just can't remember all, particularly what we talked about. I mean, I can't recall.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about with your kids? And how old are your kids, by the way?
Well, I have a 16-year-old living with us, and we have a 26-year-old, 28-year-old. That's
Okay. Is he out away in college or just living somewhere else?
She's
She
away.
is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Did you have discussions with both of them?
No, just the teenager.
And that was because he lives here in town, and when I say in town, in Seminole
Yes.
County, and, okay. What discussions do you recall having with him? Was it more of like a lesson type thing, or was it more, do you remember what aspect of the case you discussed with him?
Well, and I think we talked. It was kind of a lesson thing. We talked about being careful. One of the things that I'll bring up. I realized that the way Trayvon Martin was dressed caused some speculation about him in the situation, and my son dresses the same way.
Meaning he wears what, a hoodie?
He'll wear a sweatshirt with a hood, and
Okay.
so we cautioned about that.
That he might, to some person, it might be a, tell me what, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What did you tell your son about the hoodie aspect of it?
Well, yeah, I mean, that, be careful, just cautious. It can be I don't know why, but people wearing that outfit can be misconstrued, misinterpreted of what they're, It just doesn't look to me, and I'm an older person, it's not something we would normally do, and we just
Sure.
want to be cautious,
Okay.
careful about it.
And I gather, since your kid's 16 years old, that he say, well, hold on, Dad, it's not against the law to wear a hoodie.
No, he didn't react that way, no. He
Okay, how did he react?
understood he understood that it was, that he had to be careful.
Okay. Did you prevent him from then on wearing a hoodie?
No.
Okay, has he worn it since then?
Sure.
Okay, you just told him to be mindful that somebody else may think that there's something wrong with it?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you can remember talking to your son about the case itself?
No, I think that was the only thing we really wanted to be concerned, address with him.
Other than that aspect of it, in terms of Trayvon Martin wearing a hoodie, was there anything else about his attire that caused you concern,
No.
based on what you saw on TV?
No.
Anything else about Trayvon Martin that caused you concern that you've read or seen on TV about, that you can recall?
No.
How about anything regarding George Zimmerman? Anything about that you read or seen on TV about him?
No.
Do you recall seeing any pictures on TV about the case?
Yes.
Okay, what pictures do you recall seeing about the case?
Well, I saw, I did see the pictures of Mr. Zimmerman's injuries that he sustained.
Okay.
I do recall seeing those.
Okay, what pictures do you specifically remember seeing about injuries?
His face and the back of his head.
And what were your impressions when you saw those injuries?
That he sustained those during the attack that he alleged.
Okay, you used two words in terms of, make sure I understood what you're saying, that he was attacked, you're saying?
Right.
And you said alleged?
Yes.
Okay, why did you use alleged and attack?
Well, because up to now, I don't know what really happened.
Okay, so, and that's what my question was, did you formulate an opinion based on observing those injuries that he was, and I'm going back to what you were saying, he was beaten, did you automatically assume that based on those photographs you saw that he was beaten?
Yes.
Okay. And you used now the word alleged, meaning, can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, I'm just trying to be careful because I don't really know what happened. And until all the evidence is heard in the case and arguments are all made in the case, I don't really know what happened. So I don't really have an opinion on what happened.
Okay. So in other words, you don't know what happened other than what you're going to hear in the courtroom. You agree that what's important is what you hear in the courtroom, not what the news is reported?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Did you did you listen to any of the recordings that came out of this case? What I mean by that is the 911 recordings or anything like that?
Like I said, I knew there was recordings, but I don't remember the particulars in the conversations that took place.
Okay. You don't remember any aspect of it, any of the recordings themselves?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And listening to them at the time.
I'm afraid if I tried to say something back to you, it wouldn't be accurate, and that's what we're concerned about.
Yeah, I appreciate that, sir. I'm just trying to find out what you know, and if you don't remember something, it's perfectly all right to say you don't remember. My question is, did you, in listening to the recordings, whatever recordings you heard, did you form any impressions as a result of those recordings?
No. I mean, I can't remember what the recordings were, so I can't say I did. So.
How about recently, in terms of any proceedings in court? Did you listen to any of the proceedings in court recently, within the last month or so?
No.
Okay. Any other aspect of the case that you can remember now that you say, well, hold on, I've had some time to think about it. Even now while I'm asking you questions, anything about that you can recall at this time?
I appreciate the question, but I can't think of anything.
Okay. If you were picked as a juror, you're sitting there as a juror, you're listening to the evidence, and something comes out. And I'm going to make something up. It didn't happen in this case, but let's assume that there was a case involving a car, right?
Okay.
And witnesses said the car was blue. And you said, hold on, there was something in the news, but the car was described as being red. Which would you rely on in arriving at a decision in the case? What you remember in the news of the car being red, or what the witnesses said about the car being blue?
Whatever happens here in the court.
Okay. So my question is, when you're sitting as a juror, hopefully we have good memories and we remember things. Can you agree that what came out in the media should in no way whatsoever impact your decision?
That's correct.
Can you agree with that?
I agree with that.
Okay, because we don't ask you as a juror to we don't have like a magic thing, wand that you put over your head and it erases everything you've heard.
Right.
But do you understand that what's important is?
Yes, I understand.
Okay. Do you always believe that what's on TV is accurate in terms of the news?
Well, not always, no.
Okay. Do you believe most of the time it's accurate?
I believe they try to be accurate most of the time, but
Okay.
yeah,
And how about in the newspaper? Do you believe that everything they're reported is accurate?
not everything, no.
Okay. In terms of the news on TV and the newspaper, do you recall, aside from the news, do you recall commentary about it by attorneys or other people commenting about the case?
I can't recollect. I'm sure there was some, but I don't remember. But
Do you remember any attorney involved in the case having any kind of news conference or just talking about the case?
Well, I know that there's been news conferences by the attorneys, but I don't remember what they were.
Do you remember which attorneys were involved in that?
Well, I recognize Mr. O'Mara, so
Okay.
I believe
All right.
he had some press conferences.
Yes, sir. Good. So you've heard him on having press conferences,
Sure.
I'm assuming. Now, we on behalf of the state have not had press conferences. We hold that against us because we did have any press
I
conferences.
don't hold against anybody, no, sir.
Okay. Do you remember any aspects of what Mr. O'Mara talked about?
No, I can't remember that, what they were back then. So.
Okay. let's assume you're picked as a juror, and you hear some evidence, and then you remember, oh, well, Mr. O'Mara said, you know, ABC, but I haven't heard that. Would you hold it against Mr. O'Mara because he previously said something about commentary and then it didn't come out that way?
No, I'm going to judge, I'm going to make all my decisions based on whatever happens here within the courtroom.
At this time, you believe you've got an open slate? In other words, you haven't formed an opinion whatsoever, even leaning a certain way?
That's correct. I'm not.
You know, we have opinions, but then sometimes we're kind of leaning this way, but we want to keep an open mind. Are you in that way whatsoever?
No,
Okay, so you're not even leaning one way or the other?
that's correct.
Okay. You believe in the concept in terms of presumption of, in other words, you believe that a fair trial for both sides?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, not just for the defendant, but also for the state?
Absolutely.
Okay. If I may have a moment?
Sure.
Your Honor. What did you think about the fact that Mr. Zimmerman was not charged originally? What impressions did you form once you saw that on TV?
Well, I guess when I first heard it, I felt like, I guess my opinion or my impression was that the police department did a thorough job at the scene, and their discovery was enough to make a decision that there wasn't a charge.
Yes, sir. And later you made a determination, or you wrote, I'm sorry, that you found out that he was charged.
Yes.
Did you start thinking about, well, hold on, earlier the police didn't charge him, now all of a sudden it's charged him. You go, what the heck happened?
Yeah.
Okay, what did you think about that?
Well, again, I said earlier, I don't know what took place during the investigation, but the investigation must have uncovered something that made them rethink the circumstances, and then they came up with a charge. So I mean, all I tried to figure out was, I don't know the answer, I don't know why.
Okay.
I was just confused by it, but
Yes,
it
sir.
happened. It happened. So.
I may have a moment, Your Honor. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. West?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Don West. I'm one of the attorneys for Mr. Zimmerman, and you said you do recognize Mr. O'Mara here, seated to my left, and of course George Zimmerman at the end of the table here. Do you know if you've heard lawyers for the Martin family speak at press conferences?
I don't recall any.
Nothing particular about press conferences in general, regardless of who gave
Correct.
them,
That's correct.
stands out in your mind?
That's correct.
Okay. Completely forgettable, I take it.
Sorry.
We get that. All right. So let me just kind of put some parameters around the kind of news that you've gotten and how much of it along the way. What I take from your comments is that you pay particular attention to the case early on, once it really hit the media, and then not so much, at least not in particular, over a fairly extended period. And maybe it's back because of the trial coming up and you being summoned. Is that a fair
assessment?
overview? Okay. Any way to estimate, if you were just trying to pick a number, how many times you may have read a story or seen something online or heard this case talked about in the radio?
No, I couldn't estimate any number.
After the initial sort of media part, you talked about the demonstrations. Did you pay any particular attention when you listened, when you heard the case mentioned or saw a headline in the newspaper?
During that time?
No, after that.
No, after the arrest.
I know, as you've said, you don't yourself hold an opinion, or certainly not a firm opinion, about what happened in the case. Have you expressed a view or a slant in your discussions with people?
No, I usually tell my friends that I can't make a decision or opinion or a judgment until I've heard So I've heard everything presented in the case in the court. So.
Well, of course, there's no way to hear everything unless you are actually on the jury.
That's true. I mean, that's true. That's true.
So, have others expressed opinions to you that,
Yeah. Yeah, others have got opinions, and I just can't give one. So.
have co-workers or family members expressed an opinion to you about whether they thought George Zimmerman was guilty or not guilty?
I know coworkers haven't because I haven't talked to them about it. No, I don't think my wife has given me an opinion one way or the other either.
Does she follow the news more closely than you?
Less than I do.
Less. When you had the conversation with your stepson, was that to talk about guilt or innocence in the case, or this notion of how one needs to be sensitive to how one appears to others?
It was the appearance. Yeah, it was not about the guilt or innocence.
Do you think that the article of clothing, a hoodie, in and of itself is significant in the case?
No, I don't think it should be.
Is that a term that you became familiar with because it was connected with the case? Is somehow that was associated with the case, or did you always feel
The term.
hoodie?
That got. Yeah, I think that's probably first I heard of it was from the case.
Some of the demonstrations were specifically called that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Sure. You were aware of that. Sort of became a symbol of some of the public rallies and protests. And
Sure.
such. Do you yourself have any opinion, any reason to think that a hoodie, a hooded sweatshirt itself, is actually a significant part of the case?
No.
Back in February, March of 2012, when this first sort of hit the national press, there were issues, questions raised about why George Zimmerman wasn't arrested, that you've talked about here today.
Mm-hmm.
And then you commented that sometime later, after there was an investigation, that obviously he was arrested, charges were filed.
Right.
Did that make you think that somehow the Sanford Police Department's investigation was shoddy or incomplete or biased in some way?
No, I mean, I don't know why they, what the investigation determined or anything. I don't know why all of a sudden there was an arrest, or it was an arrest to start with, and why there was an arrest after. I don't know all that.
Did you ever try to figure out what, if anything, happened between the Sanford Police Department not making the arrest and then the decision some period of time later? What, if anything, was different?
No, I didn't look into it.
Mm-hmm. What caught my attention, why I'm asking you, is you made the comment that there must have been, or maybe you think there was something else or something different that resulted in the charges being brought when they hadn't been brought before.
I assume so because there was a change in the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume there was something that caused that.
Looking at the case since then and information that may have been released in the public, have you formed any opinion as to what that evidence might be, or if in fact there is any more evidence that would have formed the basis for the charge?
No, I haven't formed an opinion.
You may have suspected, hey, if he's charged, that must mean there's some more evidence.
Well, I assume there was something else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what.
Is that something, though, that you can compartmentalize and not carry with you into the jury room when you're considering the evidence brought before you?
I assume that if it's not presented here in the courtroom during the case, then it's not applicable.
Or doesn't
It
exist.
doesn't exist. Yeah.
Okay. So you won't speculate as to what additional evidence,
It's not relevant. It's not relevant, and the speculation is not relevant.
feel pretty comfortable that you could make your decision in this case without speculating, without considering information you have, whether true or not, from any other source than what you hear in this courtroom?
That's correct.
Sure. I'm sorry, just give me just a moment, please. Thank you.
I'm not going anywhere.
Did you, let me, just a couple of general things. Did you attend any of the events that you talked about that you knew took place?
No.
Or whether for support or just for curiosity?
No, I've never supported it.
Or sign any petitions
No.
or any of that? And you haven't watched television to actually participate in hearings that we've had? You haven't seen actual
Correct.
testimony or such?
Correct.
If I could have just one moment. Oh, thank you. That's all I.
Thank you. If you'll remain seated for just one moment, and counsel, when you're ready, please approach the bench. At this time, court will be in recess for these proceedings until 9 a.m. And counsel, I am just going to go downstairs and give the admonition to the jurors that are waiting there, and counsel will also be down there for that purpose. Yes.